Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Kaylin Schneider. I am a ASMR artist, skincare, makeup, content creator. I do a few other things, but mainly I do ASMR. I am Alaskan Native. I am Tlingit Deshiton Raven Beaver. Today I want to tell you the story of how my mother went missing. I want to talk about why I think she's not being searched for and how I think the police may be involved. Now, I have been trying to tell this story on social media for years. On Valentine's Day, it'll be her 4-year anniversary of when she disappeared. Please share this video. Like, comment, share. Comment a orange heart emoji to boost engagement. If you are gonna boost any of my videos, please let it be this one. I just want to find my mom, but if we never find her, I want to make sure that everybody knows her name and her story because she deserves to be found. My mother struggled with mental illness. She had bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety. She was the black sheep of the family. I was adopted when I was 9 years old because my mom couldn't take care of my brother and I due to addiction, mental illness. All of these things were causing issues. So my mom's mom, my grandma, took my brother and I in and raised us. But my mom was still very much a part of my life. She was not as close with other family members as she was with me. My mom does have 3 children. Later on in life, after we were adopted, she did have another child, and that daughter was adopted out as well, but not to my grandma. And I think that was really hard on her. But she was a good mom, and she stayed involved in our lives as much as she could. But my mom, she had struggles. She heard voices. She was a lost soul. And this caused a big rift in our family. My grandparents struggled because they didn't understand my mom, and they never got along. They always fought. People would always be mean to my mom. They never understood why she was the way she was. She heard voices and it made her paranoid. And we always jokingly called her the bag lady. It was like this inside joke, but it was because she was so scared that people were going to steal from her. I think a mixture of drug use and hearing voices, paranoia, anxiety, it caused her to always think people were stealing from her. And so she would lash out and she would, kind of snap on people and accuse people of stealing. And so it was the perfect mess for a person to go missing and for nobody to look for her. Indigenous women go missing a lot here in Alaska and throughout the country and throughout in Canada. And it's always women like my mom. Women who have mental illness, addiction, homelessness. It's a perfect storm. And she had all of those things. The police here don't they don't do anything when Indigenous women go missing here. In fact, they don't even seem to pretend like they care. It's just like this thing. It's so... It's like a hopeless feeling because I just want to find my mom. I want to tell her story. I want people to care. It makes me angry because despite all of those things, I have literally seen my mom take her shirt off and give it to somebody who had liquid spilt all over their shirt. And we were downtown. I literally have seen my mom give her shirt, give her coat off her back in the middle of winter. She was a good, loving, caring person. She just had a lot of issues. And I think that's why the police basically did nothing. Now, my mom always just showed up at my house. She would always pop in unannounced, uninvited, and be like, I'm here to clean your floor. I'm here to scrub your toilet with a toothbrush. And I was always like so annoyed. I would always be so annoyed at my mom. And now thinking back, I would give anything. Like, cherish those moments. Cherish the weird things your parents do. Because I would give anything. I would give anything to have my mom just pop in unannounced. Now, the days leading up to when my mom went missing, she took me shopping. She took my husband and I to the grocery store and said she would buy us like $100 worth of groceries because even though she had little to no money, she would do stuff like that. Of course, as always, I went $20 over the limit. So I was like, okay, I'm sorry, let me put some groceries back, right? Of course, my mom was like, no, you're not gonna put $20 worth back. Just, it's fine, it'll be okay. But I only have $600 left to my name, and I just really don't want to spend too much because I'm planning on having a dinner, a gathering with my friends tomorrow, and I only have $600 left, so I want to make sure I'm good. So thinking back, I didn't really think much of it. I just kind of made a mental note of like, oh shoot, I feel bad. She only has $600 left, you know? But she's my mom. She insisted. Now, the days leading up to when she disappeared, she would say things like, you know, somebody's after her or, you know, somebody was trying to get her. But like I said, she struggled with mental illness. So it wasn't uncommon for my mom to say things like that. Now, the day she went missing, I spoke to her on the phone a few times. She called me and said that she was having a fight with this guy who she was hanging out with, seeing. She wasn't really the type to like date. She was very much the one who guys would fall in love with, but she was such a free spirit that she was always just like, we can be friends, and like maybe she would have a thing with them, but she would never like outright date them because, I don't know, she was just like a free spirit. And so we'll call this guy John Doe. She was having a fight with John Doe, and so she asked if she could come to my house. Now, this was my first day, my first Valentine's Day as a married woman. So my husband and I had some big plans to go out to dinner. Well, I told her, why don't you go to Grandma's house? And she asked if she could drop her things off at my house. I didn't want her to because, like I said, she was very much the type to think people are stealing. And she would accuse me sometimes, and it always made me upset because I don't steal. And, I would get upset, and I feel horrible now because I wish that my mom would yell at me or, whatever now. Like, it's things like that where you're just little things that you miss, even the bad stuff. But I said, just go ahead, go to grandma's house. So she said, okay. She brought her stuff over to my grandma's house. And mind you, my grandma's house. So we live in Juneau, Alaska. We live in a small town. Our town is like on the edge of a mountain. My grandma's house was on Old Glacier Highway, so you could only go one way or the other. And then it was parallel to the new highway. So it wasn't like there was streets where you could go like left or right. It was just one way or the other, downtown or the valley. So she's walking from town towards the valley to my grandma's house. She walks there, drops off her stuff, and I didn't think anything of that in the moment because we jokingly called her the bag lady. She never just like left her stuff. But I was busy. I didn't think at the time like, oh, she wants to drop off her things. Like, that's not normal. You know what I mean? So she calls me after leaving my grandma's house. She's walking towards town. And she tells me a few times she thinks somebody's after her. Someone's out to get her. She just doesn't feel safe. But like I said, that was normal for my mom to say. My mom struggled. She heard things. She always said, there's a rebar. Like, there's, she struggled a lot mentally. And she just heard voices. And so I assumed it was her sickness. My mom and I had a great relationship. We did fight a lot, but I did let things she say slip over my head because I was just like, it's just her illness. So I just chalked it up to it being her illness. Now we get off the phone and I never hear from her again. Unfortunately, if you look into this, you will find that there are a lot of different stories. Unfortunately, when somebody goes missing, there are a lot of sick people out there. And people call us to this day, message us with twisted stories. And it's like messed up because these people sit at home and think of this stuff. And it blows my mind that there are people out there that sit in their homes and think of these things. Now, like my mom, almost all of my family members have mental illness and addiction. So, unfortunately, a lot of the other stories involved, if you look up articles, you'll hear other people's stories. Like my aunt had said that she was walking towards town, that she had dropped her off. Nobody can confirm that. My aunt sleeps a lot, and the day that I noticed my mom had gone missing, which was the day after I had spoke to her, I went to my grandmother's house and I said, something's wrong. My grandma, my aunt, all my family chased me out of my house, my grandma's house, and said, she's just probably partying. No, none of them believed me. Still to this day, it upsets me because I am not shy in commenting on it. Everyone, the police, family, friends, everybody said she's fine. She's just out partying, I'm sure. But of course, if you ask any of them, they knew. They were so scared. They didn't chase me out of the house. Instantly, I knew something was wrong. I was driving around like a crazy person. Little did I know, I was pregnant at the time. My husband and I had been trying to get pregnant for years, and I was told I would never conceive. My mom always knew I would conceive. She had lost a baby years ago, and it was a boy. When she lost the baby, I remember her telling me, "Don't worry, he's going to be reborn as your son." I have a son. He's 2. He's on the bed behind me, sleeping. Little did I know I was pregnant at the time. I was searching, driving around looking like crazy for my mom. Unfortunately, I miscarried that baby. I was really struggling. It was a really, really depressing time in my life. Shortly after, I had turned in the paperwork right away. The police never really issued that she was a missing person for a while. So we turned it in February, and it took some time. I remember going in to do a story on it. The local Juneau Empire was going to do a story talking about her being a missing person. When I was walking in, it had been weeks. I'm pretty sure about a couple weeks at this point. And they still hadn't issued her as a missing person officially, despite us filling out the paperwork. I'm walking in to go do this interview. Just as I walk in the door, I get a phone call from JPD saying they're now issuing her as a missing person. And I'm like, why is it just now happening? Come to find out, the reporter told me that when they're releasing a story, they actually have to notify the police in case it messes up the story somehow. I don't know. So it literally took me going in to do a story on it for them to actually take it seriously. Now, when all this is official, when they finally start taking it serious that she's a missing person, I'm like, okay, get her phone records. Did she go on an airplane? Did she go on a boat? Where were what do you have? When was the last time you guys saw her? And everybody had a story, but nothing was confirmed. And it was weird because the police would just run with stuff. I remember got a phone call, and the cop calls me and tells me, so we know what happened. She's been spotted. We're going to close the case. All is good. She was spotted at Fred Meyer's, which is our main grocery store. And it's a small town. We don't have a lot of grocery stores. And they say she was spotted at Fred Meyer's. She's happy, healthy, alive, and safe. Okay. Where's the evidence? Do you have a person? Who are they? What, is there surveillance? How do you're just going to take some random person's word for it? And they're like, yep, this is good. Let's close the case. I'm sorry. If it was your mom, would you? No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I want all of the evidence. Oh, well, finally they look into it and there was nothing. Okay, so had I agreed to close the case, they would have. Yeah. So time goes by. I get another phone call. And like I said, I wanted the phone records. The cop would say things like, oh, you're the family member. You can go get the phone records. But when I called the people, they're like, no, you're not a cop. They need to do it. Now, they call me later and tell me that she was spotted at a convenience store in Wrangell, which is a town outside of Juneau. It's a smaller town. At a convenience store buying a pack of cigarettes, and same thing. He said, the clerk said she was happy, healthy, alive, and safe. Okay, where is the evidence? I need surveillance. I want to talk to the guy. Who is he? Like, did anyone else see? Where is she now? Nothing. They literally had nothing. But they led me to believe they did. Time kept going by and nothing's happening. Finally, I decide I'm going to call that store. And the guy at that convenience store says, I don't know what you're talking about. I have been telling the officer there's no woman that even looked like her. There was no encounter like that. We don't have anything. I never saw anybody, but he keeps insisting. And I even sent over the footage of the day that he keeps saying to prove, but he keeps insisting this is her and this so-called encounter happened, which it did not. So I'm like, okay, let me call Fred Meyers. Same thing. They were like, no, no such encounter happened. We don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so who's lying here? Time goes by and I think he's going to call me and tell me. Nope. I literally had to call and be like, so I talked to them. And he's like, oh yeah, it wasn't her. It was someone else. Then he messages me a picture of a woman that's like, I don't even know how far away, but like really far away. It looked like this woman was like pumping gas in her car or something. And that like the person who was taking the picture was like hiding in the bushes really far away. And it's like a blonde woman and she's kind of short. And I'm just looking at the picture and I call him like, this is not my mom. And he's like, well, how do you know? Because she's my mom? Because I came from her body? I was birthed by this woman? I have known her. How old was I? 25, at the time? It's my mom. I could identify her walking a mile away. Like, she's my mom. But, I mean, I don't know. He was like, well, there's no way to be sure. It's not my mom. I literally, like, she's not the same height, doesn't have the same hair, same haircut, the same physique. Like, it's just not her. So, it took some time to convince. And then also, she doesn't drive. She doesn't have her driver's license. I get on social media at this point, and I'm posting updates, kind of telling people what's going on. To a degree, I'm trying to be like, not, like, keep my emotions out of it and just, here are the facts, basically. But also kind of like setting people straight, because at this point there are so many rumors of what had happened. People are saying she's in treatment, that they've seen her at the store. Whenever we look into it, they can't prove any of it. People are saying they know that she was killed and how she was killed and who killed her. Of course, they can't prove any of it. Every single person who said they saw her was full of it. Literally. It got to the point where I couldn't even, like, anytime someone would contact me, I couldn't even talk to them about it, because I have had thousands of people tell me to my face, I know who killed her. I watched it happen. I will go to court. It's sick how many people I would cry and think, oh my God, thank you. And they were just lying. I mean, it's weird. It's weird how somebody could, like, do that. Who does that? Who sits there and thinks of, like, okay, she was chopped up or she was put in a crab pot, and, like, goes and searches the family out and, like, comes up with this detailed, gruesome story and, like, tells the family member, because People really did that, and they still do it. It's disgusting. It literally makes me sick. This John guy, I have so many people telling me that they saw them arguing the day she went missing, that they witnessed them fighting and they heard physical altercations happening. So that's the thing that makes the most sense, because I knew she was going there. So I feel, let me look into that. Now I find out because my cousin knew this John Doe guy. She calls him. I don't know if I can play this here on YouTube, so I'm going to have to figure out a way if I can play clips of it, but the clip is very concerning. The man talks about how, so my cousin basically calls him and records their conversation. In the clip, the man talks about how my mom was, I don't know if I can say this word, raped, how he is a drug dealer, how he and her would get in physical altercations, and how the day she went missing, they got into a fight with boat oars, and how it was normal for them to spar with boat oars, and that he had hit her over the head with a boat oar. There is so much information on that tape, and we sent it to the police. The police took the tape. Months go by. We see John Doe commenting on Facebook saying things like, he was with her. And then he would say, oh, it was the day of. Oh, actually, it was a year before the day. And he kept changing his story. And then he would comment on, we'd see him posting stuff on Facebook, commenting on people's stuff, saying how it wouldn't be uncommon to find her blood on his boat, but it was her period blood, so it's fine. Weird. Time goes by and the police aren't really doing anything. So I'm like, are you gonna go look into this John guy? We sent you the tape. Are you gonna look at his boat? They said, oh, we went and knocked on his door, asked him if he ever saw her. He said no, so we left. What? I'm like, you didn't even check in the boat? Nope. So I said, okay, I can't get a hold of the investigator after this. I call back. I get a hold of some other cop. I say, did you guys listen to the tape? They say, what tape? There's no tape in the evidence locker. What? Where'd the tape go? We sent a tape. A recording. Sorry, that's my son. He's sleeping on the bed. So, more time goes by. I get a message on Facebook. This woman contacts me and tells me that she was partying with John Doe on his boat. She was a little bit chilly, so he offered her a coat. This coat she partied with, went home wearing, went home and washed it, was going to give it back when she realized this was the coat my mom had gone missing wearing. And she washed it. Immediately, I call the police, have them confiscate it. They put it into evidence. Later I call. They say there was no blood, we couldn't find anything. I call back again. Another cop says they don't know what coat we're talking about or if it's in the evidence locker. I don't know if they just didn't check or they looked and there was nothing there. So I asked, what all do they have? And I was never given like a list or anything. And I've asked multiple times. So I don't really know what they have, but I am always getting like mixed answers. More time goes by, and at this point I am feeling like we're never going to find her. There's a lot of other rumors going around of a couple that she was hanging out with saying that maybe they had chopped her up. There was nothing to it. We couldn't prove any of that. We couldn't even prove that they had hung out. I'm pretty sure it was just a rumor. After a few months, my husband and I found out we were pregnant again with our rainbow baby, my son, on the bed. I was so happy, but I was also really sad because my mom wanted to be a grandma, and I, at this point, was thinking, my mom is never going to meet her grandchild. And I was right. She still has never met him. Now, I eventually get to a point where I'm so pregnant that I have to go on bed rest. And I can't drive around like I was looking for her as often because I was having a very difficult pregnancy. I had already lost one baby and I wasn't about to lose my son. I get a phone call saying that the police had some more information. Now, when she initially went missing, they had searched the boat and the plane itineraries, proving she had never, left town officially. But that was pretty much. I get a phone call from the cop saying that a man had moved into a house at the top of the mountain, which was basically along the trail walking from my grandmother's house towards town where the boat harbor is. It was basically up the mountain. That somebody had bought that house. They were going to sort of explore their backyard, and the dog takes off running and comes back with an item of clothing. Now, this mountain is like very rough terrain. It's not easy to walk up just randomly. He decides to follow the dog into further up the mountain, and it leads him to this opening where there's a bush, and under the bush is my mom's clothing folded neatly, as if somebody placed it there. They didn't find anything else except for her ID in the pocket. At this point, I was very pregnant and couldn't exactly help. So the cop tells me, okay, we're going to go up there. We're going to search. I'm like blown away at this point. This is over a year into her being missing. And finally, they're going to do a search party. Over a year. But I'm grateful they, right, you know, thank God they're going to go up there and search. But a whole year. So they go up and search the mountain. Right as they're starting the search, I get a phone call. My grandma passed away. She never heard what happened or heard about what we had found on the mountain. She passed away before she could ever find out. And she never knew what happened to her daughter. I, at this point, am so stressed out. I go into early labor. I start having really bad contractions. So I call the cop and I tell him, listen, I want to hear what happens, but I need to take a step back. I need to be on like very strict bed rest at this point. I was already like in a bad situation with my pregnancy, but at this point it was bad. So I take a step back. He calls me, tells me they went up the mountain, they found those clothes and nothing else. So he says, okay, I think we're going to call it. I'm like, what? You guys found something. You need to go up there again. But this was like in, I think, December. This was, and it's Alaska, so I get that it was bad weather, but they shouldn't have, she went missing in February. The weather should have been fine. They should have gone up there and looked in the first place. But I get there are other people involved. So I say, okay. They say, okay, we'll go up one more time and then we're going to have to wait for everything to thaw out. They call in these search dogs and these out-of-town rock climbers, professionals, to go up there and search. They search the area, again, find nothing, but they say there's a cliff up there. She probably just killed herself. I know she did not kill herself. They say, well, it's common for people to just give up, hike up a mountain, strip naked, because when you're up there and if you have hypothermia, oftentimes people with hypothermia think they're hot even though they're freezing, and so they take their clothes off and, you know the rest. Well, I know my mom wouldn't just hike up there alone and do that. She struggled, but she cared too much. She wouldn't do that. So they say, okay, we'll keep looking a little longer. They call me back and tell me they had been searching the area and they decide to stay on the same elevation but go a little towards town. About a mile towards town at the same elevation, they come across a grave site. There's tarps laying around and a cross. On the cross, there is a kind of blue beaded native earring. He calls me and he says, is this your earring? No, it's not my earring, and I don't know if it's my mom's. I can't lie because he wants me to prove I have the other one or show a picture of her with it and prove that it's hers. Not only that, but I don't want to lie because if I lie about something and he knows, then he's not going to take it even more seriously. And he's already not taking it very seriously. So I say, okay, it's not mine, but here's the thing. My mom collected a lot of stuff. And my own husband can't even, he buys all my jewelry. And my husband can't even point out what's mine and, what type of jewelry I have. I guarantee he couldn't. And he buys my own jewelry. So I say, there's a chance it's hers, but I can't prove it is. But even if it isn't, you can't just bury someone on the side of a mountain. You need to dig that grave up. They bring the search dogs over there, and the cadaver dogs, the search dogs, sit at the gravesite. They send me a picture of the dog. There's my son's little foot. And I say, okay, well, from what I understand, search dogs only sit when they have found remains. They say, no, they didn't sit. We sat them there to take the picture because we just thought it was an odd situation. They said the dogs led them there. So I think they should dig it up. They say there's nothing to dig up. It's just a cross, and there's no actual, like, grave site, and there's no remains. I don't believe that. They send me this picture of the dog sitting. Here is the cross. And then here is the earring. You can see there's tarp in the back. And the other picture, the dog is sitting. This looks like a gravesite to me. But they kept insisting it wasn't. This area that they got to was, they said, was dangerous. It was sharp rocks. It wasn't like some random person could just hike up there. So I just think it's weird. The whole thing is weird. They didn't find anything else, and they never dug up the grave. We asked, where is it? I'll hire people and send people up there. They refused to tell us where it's at. They refused to tell us where the grave is, where they found her clothes. I just kind of know, like, a rough estimate. They didn't do any other searches after that for a while. I had to take time off because I was about to give birth to my son, and I never really posted on social media or told anybody about these clothes that had been found because I wanted to hold off and see if anybody would say anything. A little bit more time goes by, and I see a post on social media of John Doe saying that he was walking from my grandmother's area towards his boat in the woods when he happened to come across an area where it looked like a woman had been attacked, and that there were clothes and a burn pit, and they think that they should go check it out because it might be where my mom was. I literally sent screenshots of this conversation to the police. So did multiple people. I contact the police and they say, oh, it was a homeless man. We looked into it. It was just a homeless man's stuff. No big deal. I never announced clothes in the woods. There's no way anybody could have known her stuff was found in that area. Now, people were coming to me telling me that John Doe was going around bragging to people saying that she was in a crab pot and that no one would ever find her. People were telling the police this, and the police were saying, oh, we looked into it, there's nothing, it's just crazy stories, just crazy rumors. More time goes by, and I get a phone call saying that they looked into the airline records into the boat records. You can't drive out of my hometown. You can only leave by boat or plane. They looked into those and there was no proof she ever left. Well, an officer, was retiring when he went up to the investigator and said, I know Tracy, she does this kind of thing. It's normal for her to just take off and not be heard from. She's done it lots of times, so it's no big deal. But you should look into the airplane records again, just see if anything pops up. The investigator says, okay. He looks at the airline records, and there's an airplane ticket for my mom traveling from Anchorage, Alaska to Seattle to someplace with like a weird, crazy name like Kalamazoo or something. And it was for June, but we didn't find out till July. And I'm like, okay, so where's her stuff? Like, how did she purchase the ticket? You have to have a credit card, you have to have an ID, you have to have money. I looked those up. Those tickets were expensive. And she only had $600 left. Well, they said it was a round trip ticket as well. And there was another ticket going to Honolulu and back, but those tickets were scheduled for December, but they had been canceled. So he says, oh, after 30 days, the footage deletes, and they bought it in cash. There's no ID, no paper trail, nothing. Interesting. So I decide I'm going to call the airlines. I call the airlines and I bawl my eyes out. I break down and I'm like, my mom's missing. She's a missing person. Please, I'm desperate. I will literally do anything. Like, please tell me, did my mom travel? This is the information. These are the dates. This is da 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 da. They're like, there's no ticket for that day. There's no one with that name, that birthday. There's not even an airplane that travels that time. What? So I call the officer and he says, oh, I looked into it. And he says it was somebody with the same name and birthday, but it was like one letter off, one digit off, like Tracy Day, but like DAI or something like that. And like similar birthday, but like a couple days off or a day off. Like, it was just a weird. And even if it was her, how did she get to Anchorage from Juneau? You literally can't leave here unless it's by boat or plane. It just didn't make sense. Nothing about it made sense. The whole thing was weird. And that was where everything ran cold. There was nothing else. There was no leads, nothing. Well, it's been a long time. There hasn't been anything until I'm at the store one day and this woman comes up to me and she says, I'm so sorry. I didn't say anything sooner, but I know what happened to your mom. She says your mom was murdered by the police. I witnessed it and they've been messing with me ever since. And I don't know what to do. And I'm so sorry that I didn't do anything or say anything, but I was scared. She says, I was with your mom downtown, and I saw your mom dancing, singing in Tlingit, and the police stopped, questioned her. They seemed annoyed that she was causing a scene, essentially. She said that they said that she needed to calm down, not cause a scene, and my mom somehow was fighting with them. That they took their baton out. One of them took their baton out and hit her over the head with it, and that she dropped to the ground and never got back up. That he looked panicked, and so they both picked her up, put her in the back of the cop car, and drove off. She said that she knows my mom was gone. I asked her, why wouldn't you do anything? Why wouldn't you say anything? She said, I did. I contacted your grandma and I told your grandma about this, and we went out to lunch. And then after I told your grandma, she died. And she thought they got to my grandma. And she got scared, so she skipped town. Now, my grandma died in a really horrible way, but the cops said there was no foul play. My grandma was old. She had COPD and emphysema. When she passed away, it was very brutal. They never did an autopsy, but they said, I guess she was in the bathroom and she may have had an asthma attack or some kind of coughing fit or a heart attack, and that she had fallen and broken her neck. This is so traumatizing for us, but I see somebody, I don't know whether to believe this woman, but I can see how something like that happening, it would freak me out too. Now, the cops deemed that there was nothing wrong when they came and looked at everything and, saw how she had passed. So they never issued for her to get an autopsy. We don't know exactly what happened. And I'm not saying anything did. We don't know. But it was tragic. It was traumatizing, especially because all of this was unfolding with my mom. My grandma was heartbroken because she had a really rough relationship with my mom. And I know she just wanted peace and she wanted to know what happened to her. I can't imagine. But wherever she is, I know she knows now. This woman who came forward with this information, I have not talked to her since. I reported this to the investigator and told him that there was accusations towards the police, towards 2 officers. And he said he had it looked into and that there was nothing on it. I don't know if that's true. I have no idea. All I can say is this woman insists that she saw them do it. I don't know if it's true, but I don't know why there's been many situations where I look into something that the cops tell me and that it's like a lie, or like not quite a lie, but not the total truth. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they don't want us to know, or maybe they just really don't care, or maybe they're involved. I have no idea, but it's very odd, if you ask me. I had John Doe's family contact me shortly after this and told me that John Doe was found dead in his place and that it had looked like an overdose. I have no idea if it was him. I don't know if he was involved, and maybe he was involved, or maybe he did it. Maybe he helped somebody cover it up. Maybe it was just him, or maybe it wasn't him. But his family believes that he was involved. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I have my suspicions. Because everything in this case is confusing. Nothing about it makes sense. I've had officers tell me that I shouldn't be talking about this. I shouldn't be posting about it on social media. I have had officers tell me that there's nothing in her evidence locker. I don't know if they're involved, but if they're not doing a great job at finding her. I think something deeper is going on here. My mom isn't the only Indigenous woman that's missing. There are a lot of missing Indigenous women here, and I don't think it's a coincidence. Even though John has since passed away, he sold his boat. His family contacted me and allowed for me to go look at his stuff if I wanted to, but it just felt weird, so I didn't. But even if I did, it was a new place. It was a new boat. The original boat he had sold right when he was being investigated. So even if I did go on there, there probably wouldn't have been anything to find. Even his roommate said how odd it was that the police never entered John Doe's boat and looked into all this. Please like, share, comment on this video, subscribe to my YouTube. Even if you guys aren't into ASMR, I'm going to be doing vlogs, get ready with me's. I'm going to be talking more about my mom's missing person story. So please help me build my platform. Help me get my mom's story out there. The more I gain traction on my platforms, the easier it is to get her story out there. Gaining a following has opened doors for me. Before, my videos were not only being suppressed, but not getting hardly any views. I've had so many people take advantage of this situation. I've paid private investigators, psychics, all kinds of missing persons posters. People take them down, they rip them up. The private investigators took my money and didn't do anything except for offer to help me do a fundraiser to raise more money, which is not what I hired them to do, and I never got a refund. The psychic wanted her social security number. I mean, people have just taken advantage of this situation from the beginning, and I am solely out here doing this on my own. My family, although they have good intentions, they are all struggling with their own addictions, their own mental illnesses, and none of them are in places where they even remember what happened correctly. I'm doing all of this on my own. I'm financing all of this on my own, and it's really hard, especially because I'm also trying to build my career. I love being a content creator. And you know, my mom always told me, you're going to be famous, but this is not what I wanted to be famous for. I don't want to be the girl who's looking for her mother. I want to be Kaylin, the makeup artist, Kaylin, the skincare influencer, the ASMR artist, the vlogger, the mommy, the wife, the daughter. I want to be just normal, and I don't like having to be on true crime YouTube and TikTok all the time, but this is how I'm getting her story out there. I just need people to know her name and her story. So it would really, really mean a lot if you guys boosted my videos. Follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my YouTube. It's Kaylin J. Schneider across all social media. Also, if you guys want to help out financially, I have a GoFundMe. I will link everything in the description box. I also have merch with my mom's face on it. Things like hoodies, water bottles, stuff like that with my mom's face on it. And then it says Find Tracy Day. And it has the MMIW red handprint. All of the proceeds go towards things like private investigators, missing persons posters. And then also it gets her face out there so that when you're wearing it, people see her face. It gets expensive to have a missing person. So if you can help, I'd appreciate it. Even if you can't help out with stuff like that, boost my videos talking about my mom. I love you guys. Thank you so much for all of the love, the support. If you made it this far, thank you for sitting through my whole video, watching my video. If you guys have questions, I guess just comment the questions underneath. And then if you are asking questions, put a blue heart emoji next to it so that when I'm skimming through all the comments, that will pop out to me. And then I will make another video if there's enough questions, a follow-up video answering them if you guys are interested in that. But if you just want to boost and bring more engagement, comment a orange heart. And thank you guys so much. I love you all. I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.